Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We're really excited for this amazing talk. As you heard from the very beginning, we are a group of women and men called Women for Solutions because we believe in simple, effective, and scalable solutions. And as a network for more than 5 years, we have inspired hundreds and thousands of women and men towards a caring economy. And today we're going to be talking about the third pillar of the caring economy, that is the importance of making visible and valuable the early childhood education and continuous reskilling. And the other three pillars are, as many of you know, the first pillar is the importance of making visible and care and valuable the care of the work of care, the care of the environment, and metrics. And you will see today also that our presentation is full of metrics, because whatever you measure, you can really improve and make better. So on that, I want to thank you all for being here because we are ready to start. Our speaker today, Parag, is a social entrepreneur and who started his journey as a medical doctor in public health professional and trained as an anthropologist. So he's an actual visionary because he's really a change maker, because for over 30 years, that's what he's been doing, changing the world. He has tackled the health issues as a social entrepreneur, to alleviate disaster management on the healthcare in multiple disciplines in a hospital. And also because of that, he was named as an Ashoka Fellow and a Salzburg Seminar Fellow that indicate what an amazing change maker he is. Parag is currently driving this movement of scaling. As I told you, Women for Solutions is all about scaling, and Parag is scaling what matters. It's a successful life simulator that really helps with the most important skills of human, that is empathy and pluralism, cultural understanding, building peace, a key element for the 21st century, and enhancing social and emotional skills that can build authentic and the most important type of leadership that we need to make change makers in youth and the young, because it's not only about the young, but the youthful, and you will see what he's doing. So RealLives is an amazing platform that has taken a mandate to change the way that today's world reads and responds to global challenges, and their role of empathy to make it really deep change in people. So with that note, thank you, Parag, and I would like you to share with us how did you come about this amazing change? Because you were first a doctor, you changed how hospitals were, and now you're changing how people are thinking towards a more caring world.
Yes, thank you, Laura, for this amazing platform and the opportunity with women who are mothers and sisters and a part of nature. When the theory of nature and culture is talked about in this world, women are actually who drive the nature. So the journey is simple because every one of us is a human being and everybody has this gift of empathy anyway in our system, in our DNA and everywhere. What happened was being a doctor, of course, you have to be empathetic, and being a doctor in India definitely has to be more empathetic all the time. So that's for sure. But the way it happened, I got a little bit disturbed when I was studying medicine. And I consulted my professor, who was a statistician and who knew me very well. So I said, actually, this is what the medicine is today are all about. And I'm a little bit uncomfortable. So he said, why not you do something which is psychology or something which is more public? And then we came up with the idea that why not I do anthropology. And I took the admission for medical anthropology. And Laura, I can tell you that it changed my entire life, because I went to do my field work in one of the very poorest region of India, where when I calculated, they were earning maybe 30 or 50 rupees, like $1 a month. And I was shocked in my life to my core, that how these people really can survive. Now, one of the very disruptional event happened. I took a photo of a very beautiful girl, and I came back to Pune. That time you used to take these roles, film roles, and you cannot see this photo unless and until they are developed. So I came back to my city. I got the role developed, and I showed it to my friends and this particular professor. And he said, Parag, this is amazing. This woman's smile, you cannot see because it's so natural. And to my surprise, actually, sometimes there is a connection which happens in your life. And then I got a news article in one of the biggest newspaper in India, that there is a photo contest, and they are asking for photos for the smile. And I sent my photo under that category. And to my surprise, I got the first prize. And when I came back to this professor again, who was mentor and who was everything in my life, he said, Parag, it's not your award. This award is for that girl who smiled, and you just were there to capture this entire movement. So he said, Parag, go back to that village and meet the girl and show her. These kind of experiences make your life. And that's where actually I started realizing that rather than being in the school, if you are right out in the community, and if you start moving, meeting people, seeing actually how life happens on the streets and everywhere, I think that makes you more empathetic than learning or training about empathy. So that's actually happened in my life. And there are, of course, many experiences like that in Afghanistan or in Punjab and many other places. But the start, when I say something, I remember this incidence of this girl's photo in my life throughout my life. Laura, yes, she's there. Okay. Yeah, I just finished saying what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Laura, you are mute.
Yes, thank you very much. That was really very inspiring. And with that, I think we should start with your presentation. The flow of this talk will be a PowerPoint presentation where Parag would talk about his program, what he's doing, the impact he's creating, and then we'll open to questions. And there will be a lot of questions because it's fascinating what he has created to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Before I start my presentation, let me thank Matthew, who has joined from Minnesota, and he's a teacher, and we know each other for last 8 months now. Yeah, so just to introduce him, but he will speak somewhere when I allow him to speak. So I'm not allowed, but yeah. So thanks, Matthew. So the title is very obvious, that how you really promote empathy and sustainability and change making, because I think these are 3 corners of how the world is going to change. And of course, can you use a technology which young people like? You cannot talk to them, or you cannot have a chat with them and they suddenly become empathetic and start thinking about sustainability or something like that. So that was my entire thing. And because it's a women group, this is what the fight currently happening in the gaming world, because the way women are depicted in this world is really, really terrible. It's hypersexualization, the disproportionate bodies, and this is what the games are all about. And games, as you know, is about $100 billion industry, and it attracts the best and brightest talent across the globe, who ultimately keep designing games which are kind of insulting. And I'm going to come to it at the last part of my presentation, and what is the position of RealLives in the entire context as we go. And this is from a group, Facebook group or LinkedIn group of women in games. And they have made a very strong statement, because they are actually a big group from Europe. And they are saying that women in games rejects gender discrimination, exploitation, bullying, and harassment of women in every form and setting. And this is, they are talking about the games. So there is a big movement which is coming about the women in games. And if you see the statistics of the world, the many research reports, or generally the gaming community says that game is full of men and not of women. And I think we have crossed, or RealLives has really challenged this. And when I see the gamers from my data, I think more women are playing RealLives than men, which is a good news. And I think Women for Solutions should be very happy. And this is the way to go, because if young people carry these bias throughout their life, I think that's not going to help us as a community and as a culture. I always like this quote because that is what actually changes your life upside down. Joseph Campbell, as you know, is a mythologist from Harvard, and his theory of hero is really appreciated across the globe. And he said in one of the best quotes he has that we must be willing to get rid of the life we have planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. And that's the opportunity we hardly get. Sometimes in somebody who is lucky might happen it in a plenty times. But this opportunity one should grab as a young person, because unless and until you start looking and thinking something else, you are not going to really find something as a treasure. World challenges of today are plenty, all of us know that. But I said that if I was that, and then I start putting these very interesting pictures. This is a satellite image of Earth from NASA. And I just thought that if I was born in a country with no electricity, and you see the darkness everywhere, and there is no lights or no electricity. And then being a doctor, I really question myself that if I want to take a vaccine there in these countries where there is no electricity, how I'm going to store them and how I'm going to really preserve. If my parents were born in this locality or were from this locality, how would I survive? If I was a refugee, how would I really take my life? If I worked in a diamond mine and earned less than $1, despite finding a diamond worth millions of dollars, that's the paradox of life, which I always see. If I was carrying 100 kilos of load every day, 8 hours of life every day and throughout my life, I don't know how it affects my health and how it affects my body. If I was a doctor here, or if I was admitted as a patient here in hospital in Bangladesh, how people survive and how really desperate they are. And if I was that bird who innocently ate something and died this painful death. And of course, it's not the problem of poor countries, it's also the problem of rich countries. And we see the Ukrainian war and the entire politics which is happening around oil, and the way discussions are happening, the discourse, international discourse. I think people are ultimately talking about empathy in big way, when Indian government is trying to talk and negotiate with Americans and whatever. Of course, this is Sacramento, and $4 trillion companies exist in this state in US, and there are homeless people, about 900 of them. They come every day morning at 6 a.m. in the morning to sleep in this church. You get really shocked that how these $1 trillion companies are not bothered. I don't know whether they are bothered, but they must be doing something. A lot of rich people eat about 25 spoons of sugar unknowingly every day in their diet and food, and it's really killing them. So are we going to be empathetic about that? And if I was the sea, which is full of dirt, or if I was that sea surfer who is trying to take the pleasure from the nature, it's no more exist. These are the challenges of the world, And disparity is the huge challenge. But, when I interacted with poorest of the poor, I went to a lot of areas in India and other parts of the world, in Thailand and other parts, Afghanistan, of course. I see poor people also innovate. So we have a bias, sometimes we never think that why a poor person cannot design a chappal or shoes for himself out of Pepsi bottle. And when I was showing this slide in one of the topmost design school in Berlin, started by Hasso Plattner, the SAP founder, the school got shocked, and they said, actually, why not design and give this design to the Pepsi and Coca-Cola, so that their bottles are not thrown in the nature, but they can be used for someone as a very important resource. We know all champagne glass distribution, how the richest and the poorest are currently in this world. This is very old slide, actually. This is 2000, or this is 1998. but it has not changed. Actually, it has become more and more worse. So if you see below, richest 20% have 82% of the global income, and poorest 20%, the last, the extreme poor, has only 1.4% of the global wealth. How they are going to survive? And then the question comes, should young be the consumers of this world, or should they be change makers? And that's the big question we all have. And we will surely carry, these kind of things in our passion, in our motivation, and in whatever we do as social entrepreneurs.
Friday Shopping Mania.
This is a short film from a documentary called True Cost, which is based on the textile industry of the world. And it's about 2 minutes, but very fascinating. And it sharply tells you exactly where is the problem and how does it really operate. So let's watch. Oh, sorry.
Friday Shopping Mania is still playing out tonight at malls across America.
In some places across this country tonight, it's as if someone announced we're in danger of running out of stuff, and those who need stuff had better go out and buy it now because it's going away forever.
Walmart doing more than 10 million transactions in the first 4 hours of the frenzy. A record 15,000 people at Macy's in New York City. Shoppers hung tough.
Black Friday will be the single largest day of the retail year. Certainly in the case of Macy's, we'll do more business on this day than on any other day of the year.
Nation, this orgy of Christmas shopping proves America is back. We are once again, yes, oh yes, we are once again spending money we don't have on things we don't need to give to people we don't like. Yeah, USA, 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 USA.
I've kept my grip so tight, I won't let anyone get in my way. I want beautiful things, golden rings, and I get what I want. I live just to get what I want, and I want it all. I want it all, and I want it all, and I need you to get it. I need you to get it, 'cause
When I watched this documentary, I just thought, if that was my mother and if that child was me, how would I really survive in this world? And these films make so much impact in our life that we really get disrupted. And this is what actually has an outcome, that on our echo screens, the real world disconnect has happened. We don't know what that real world is all about. And these echo screens have lost their vision and philosophy, that why they exist. There was a documentary made on Steve Jobs, and this was a question which was asked in the CNN documentary, that ultimately you have these screens all around you, and how you best use them, nobody knows actually. So as I said, it's a fight between whether you should be consumer or whether you should be change makers. And therefore, this entire project comes up that nothing is more urgent than empathy. And it's really painful when you say that something is urgent, which is the basic human, quality which we all have. This very famous experiment made me cry actually. This is Chicago, and I was there actually. I will tell you that story later. But University of Chicago, and these two women researchers, they had this curiosity whether rats have the empathy, and they made this experiment, and they found. So they did the experiment that one rat was trapped in a cage, which could be easily opened by other rat. The other rat, who is outside the cage, was kept hungry for 3 days. And then he was sent into this cage, and he came. And the hypothesis was that he will come first in the cage and eat the chocolate, which he likes, or whether he will really rescue the friend. And all the time they did the experiment, this rat was rescuing his friend first and then eating the chocolate together with him. Now, this was shocking, and there is a beautiful research which has come out of it. So, you know, a lot of people ask me that why empathy, or does empathy exist only with human beings? I think it exists with everyone. And there are lots and lots of examples coming from dolphins and sea, and even the rarest of rare animals showing empathy to many other things. And not only rats, you know, the big people are talking about empathy deficit. Obama made this statement, very famous statement in 2006, that empathy deficit is more of a worry than federal deficit. So, you know, like half the world's money is in US, and the president of US made this statement. Amazon also made it in a very different context, that, and it's Jeff Bezos who said that employees lacking empathy will be instantly purged. And of course, they have now big program about how you should be empathetic so that you can sell effectively to the people. And third is, of course, the ice cream, Ben and Jerry's. I was in Vermont, and of course, Ashoka has some connection with Ben and Jerry's. And his statement is amazing. He said that empathy is not simply the flavor of the month. It has to be like integrated in your life, and it has to be throughout your life. And then this Chinese guy who is expert on AI, he said that artificial intelligence cannot master empathy and other soft skills. So he was telling young people that, you know, you are not going to lose jobs because AI is going to come, but AI is not going to master the empathy. And this is where the crux of the humanity and everything happens. Of course, the world is shifting, and we increasingly know that unless and until you have these soft skills and social emotional skills and empathy, you are not going to really survive, because the world is moving from profit to purpose, from higher hierarchies to networks, from controlling, that was once the phenomena, to empowering the people, from planning to experimentation, and from privacy to transparency. And this is where the world is fighting right now. The next job are going to be very different than what it was, because the companies and the organizations expected something else than what it is required now. And then everyone is talking about these 6 big skills: tenacity, grit, organization and responsibility, teamwork and cooperation, composure, leadership and communication, and curiosity. So when you see this side and these skills, I think you have to be empathetic yourself to understand what it all means. And then, of course, there is a great challenge about, do I know my purpose of life or my purpose of existence? Am I authentic? Everything around me authentic or not? Do I ready to own something in this world? Can I own something? Because unless and until you own something, you cannot do something in this world. And what are about my relationships, like with environment, with everything around, with my people, with my friends, whatever. So these are the challenges which are currently being discussed. So why a project like RealLives is important? And this is where actually last 20 years we are fighting. And we wanted to create this wonderful, simulation. I always say that we are in a times like modern times, Charlie Chaplin, and he beautifully brought out the failure of, industrial revolution. Last 2 or about 300 years, we are talking about all these things with an anticipation that we will be happy and there will be beautiful nature and everything. But we know that even when I was a child, I was going to the river in my city. I used to swim, and now I cannot even walk around that river. So we are messing up with hugely about the world. And we are now talking about AI and machine learning and algorithms, but they are used currently for manipulations, for selling, for humanity challenges, cheating, and intellectual imperialism. So, we are not moving towards the brilliant and brightest world. We are moving in a world which is controlled by only few and which is going to be toxic. This is a research which is one of the very insightful for me. It's x-axis, which is time, and y-axis, which is location or where you are. So next week, next few years, lifetime and children's lifetime, and family, neighborhood, race, nation, and world. And they did ask these questions to a lot of parents and a lot of young people across the globe. And you can find that there are very few people who think about children's lifetime and about the world. Now, this is a very fascinating, it's very simple graph, but it tells you actually the story of the world. Because if you are going to, think only about next weeks and next few years, how we are going to talk about sustainability, how we are going to talk about the changing the world for the better, how we are going to talk about future generations and children's generations, we are not. So, this was the questions which were in front of us: how to build empathy, social emotional skills, and metacognitive skills, I call them. How to build global citizenship, because I should be part of the world. I should not be just small person somewhere in the world. And what are these attributes and skills, and how to make young future ready. And future ready doesn't mean that they have to be, something different, but they have to be very empathetic and very learning about this world. How many people play games? On Facebook, they are saying that 800 million people use Facebook gaming every month. 800, almost 1 billion young people are coming. And what are these games? They are playing these games which makes them depressed, which ask them to commit suicide, like Blue Whale and PUBG and these kind of multiplayer games. And this is how the market is flooded with these kind of games. And what about the games in the classroom? So 800 million people, young people, are playing games on the Facebook. And when it comes to the classroom, there are no games. This book, which was published by Catherine Baker, the Canadian researcher, she has taken 6 case studies of games which are used in the classroom. And she has devoted 2 big chapters for RealLives. The other game was Minecraft, which was bought by Microsoft for $3.4 billion. So Catherine funnily tells me that, Parag, you are in the next in the line, and maybe you will get $1 billion for RealLives. Of course, that's not the story which is going to happen. And today's topic with Women for Solutions and RealLives, I see these 3 goals: gender equality, climate action, and partnership for goals, which is goal number 70. And I was looking back on RealLives and my data and how the things happen. So gender inequality in education, big way it happens in RealLives. You can see actually how girls are thrown out of the schools in many parts of the world. Salary inequality, a Korean student were playing RealLives, and teacher wanted to have a Zoom call. And she said, Parag, my students are really angry on South Korea and many other countries. Now, if you see the salary inequality for the same job for men and women, you will be surprised that all 10 countries are the richest countries of the world, and where the salaries for the same job are different. Abuse data is huge in RealLives. Rape data, unfortunately, is there, but that's the reality of the world. And many such circumstances which automatically gets reflected from RealLives world data. So I see a big connection in, when you talk about all your objectives and all your vision as Women for Solutions. I think RealLives is really, really talking about all these issues in a big way. So let's come to this game, RealLives, what it is all about. And I'm going to take you a walkthrough to that. So RealLives is the story of ordinary people. It's not about heroes. It's about life ordinary people live in this world. And these are not heroes, but definitely these ordinary people can become heroes because they can work in their own circumstances for the changes they can do. I always say that RealLives is a revolution because I like Sir Ken Robinson, and I have really studied him very well. And he says, actually, we don't need reforms in education. We need revolution, because reform is, making up some mistakes you did in the past and you just try to correct them. So actually it doesn't help. You really need to reform as a revolution, and then the changes happen. Bill Dratton, where I am the fellow, Ashoka fellow, the founder of Ashoka, he always said that we have to teach empathy as we do literacy. So empathy can be taught. And this is another question people keep asking me, that can empathy be taught? And there are a lot of scientific arguments people do, but forget it. Actually, empathy can be taught, and empathy behavior. And that last video, which I'm going to show you about girls from Australia, that's very evident that how you can spontaneously learn empathy in RealLives. I have stolen this web, from Ashoka, but this is what we do in RealLives. We talk about social entrepreneurship. We talk every child practicing empathy. We talk about youth heroes. And, there is a guy called Tim Harris who left Apple and Google and who runs a very big group in San Francisco, who talked about time well spent. And that is where actually the priorities are going to come, that how young people are going to spend their time in their youth years and how it is going to matter them. And fourth is, of course, organizing for change making. How can we bring a lot of change makers across the globe, and how we can really motivate them to be change makers. And then this is the paradigm of RealLives, that how you can take empathy to change making. So just being empathetic and knowing about empathy doesn't really help. Whether you can turn yourself into a change maker, that helps. RealLives runs on algorithm of life. And this life, we all know that it's a chance that you are born as a girl or boy. You may be born in Afghanistan or in Seattle. So everything is around chance. Then you have all this decision and events cycle in your life. You do choices, and some of the choices are wrong or some of the choices are right. So all these actually is a complexity of life, which is the core algorithm of RealLives, how RealLives runs. So it's a very simple game. On user interface, people play. The second level is on the software side, which is simulator engine. So we have about 100 small and big algorithms, which are statistical algorithms, which actually move and then they create life. And third is the big thing is the world data coming from 193 countries. And you know, all the United Organizations created this data, which is huge. And there are more than 150 organizations in the world who collect data, and that's available just as an Excel sheet and not as a experience for a young person. And they get easily bored, if they see an Excel sheet where nothing is connected, that why people die very young, what is the infant mortality, what is the maternal mortality. And if it doesn't happen to me and is not part of my country, then why I should be really interested into it. So that was a big data we use in RealLives. And it's a simple design. So RealLives, so life doesn't start with equal chances, for everyone knows. Life is full of events and decisions. So RealLives is full of events and decisions. Life is full of choices, whether I go to school or whether I start smoking, whether I start taking drugs, my relationships. So many choices happen. And life is fully dynamic, sudden, and surprise. And life happens in RealLives in 6 major domains. One is education, second is career, third is finance, fourth is relationships, fifth is leisure, what you do for your leisure activity, and sixth is residence. Resident doesn't mean only home, but maybe few of the people can become refugees in a country like Syria because it's driven by the real data, or maybe there are refugees who want to go to other countries illegally, and on the way they die because they just like what happened in south part of America just 2 days ago, or which happened in Italy and Turkey and many other places. So this is how the lives are driven. So 2 things RealLives is bringing back into education, because this is what not happening in education right now. One is the understanding about life. We teach only subjects, we don't teach about life. And that's how the disconnect happens between life and what we teach at the school. And of course, when we understand life, we start understanding what empathy is all about, how it is connected with sustainability and sustainable thinking. And these 3 things, they make me a change maker. So this is the triangle of sort we are taking through RealLives. And second is, I was in China, in Beijing. I was invited as a keynote speaker for one of the education big conference in China. And last day, night before the conference, first day, when my keynote was going to happen, these conference people came to me saying that it's a STEM conference, science, technology, engineering, mathematics conference. We are really worried because you are going to talk about empathy and social emotional skills and soft skills and something like that. So how does they really meet? And that day I could not sleep. I really thought that it's a big problem because every school is fascinated by STEM. And then somewhere at 3 in the morning, I found this model, which I started calling as ST. So you just put E before STEM, and then just another small E, which is ecology or sustainability. And then you start calling this model as ST. And it was really widely accepted in this conference. A lot of schools were really attracted. And they said, actually, we would like to, add this first E in all the STEM projects we do. So sometimes you find very fascinating things. This is the entire ecosystem of RealLives, that who are the stakeholders, like students, schools, corporates, NGOs, innovators, change makers, educators across the globe. And then what we are trying to bring is in the green. I'm not going to read everything. I can share this presentation later. So basically, billions of life stories are generated. I'm going to show you the part of it by playing a game a little bit at the end of it. Now, what is the evidence? And Laura asked me that we have to really talk about evidence and what is the impact which is coming up. So there are about 10 research papers on RealLives coming from Santa Clara and New York University, and there is a PhD which is happening in Germany. All these papers talk about, so this first paper, Christine Bakken from Santa Clara University in California, The title is Simulating Real Lives, Promoting Global Empathy and Interest in Learning Through Simulation Games. And I spoke to her when the paper was published, and she's very fascinated about real lives, and she wants to do another research with the new version we are launching now. I'm going to Korea, and this is Professor Wonjun Lee, who is at Samsung University called SKKU, very old university, and he created a workshop where I participated as one of the faculty members, and we created this workshop called Global Social Entrepreneurship. And this was the design. This is only the one slide out of 6. But you know, the first part of this entire workshop is understanding world through empathy and play real lives and build empathy. And to their surprise, they said that Samsung University in Seoul in Korea never even used the word empathy in their entire vision document anywhere. And now they are actually submitting real lives as for a funding program with the Korean government. And we are coming up very soon, a very big program for other Korean universities through SKKU. This is Professor Yoon Shin. Yoon Shin met me first when he became the Hanyang University, which is one of the topmost, became the change maker university. And he came to Ashoka office in Korea asking that being a change maker university, they want to include empathy program. And he was completely confused about how they should teach empathy at the university. And then Ashoka Korea director Hanyang Lee introduced me to him. And we came up with this course way back in 2018 called Empathy Practicum. And this is how the course runs. And students are fascinated with the course. And the outcome of this 3 years research he did along with the students when they used real lives in the entire university, he submitted this 70-page research document to the university management. And in my next visit, I'm going to speak to their entire management. There are 10,000 students in the university, and it's going to be a huge program which we are going to design for the entire Hanyang University. This is again a school in Korea, in Seoul, called Future Class Networks. And these are the teachers on the right you see, who are actually experiencing real lives. And they had a problem. They said that, Parag, you don't know Korean students. They are very fancy. They play games which are, PSP and Xbox and 3D and 4D and those kind of games. They are not going to like a game which is social serious and which tells them something to do. So I said, okay, let's try. I'm ready to hear, that your game is stupid and we don't want to play it. At the end of 4 hours, the students told their teachers that this is the game who made them think. And the teachers told us that this is a great reaction they hear from a reckless generation, they call it, because 12 to 16 group in Korea, South Korea, if you go there, is really, they are not bothered about the world at all, because the Korean economy is about $1.8 trillion and the population is only 52 million. So you can imagine per capita income Korea has is huge. So nobody is bothered. But now slowly this school is adopted, and there are 10 more schools who started using real lives in South Korea, despite it's an English version.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you can also say that this program not only makes the students in Korea learn and think, but also the professor said some of them even cry. I've never had students cry. So when you learn from the heart is when you learn deeply and forever. And that's why it's so important, this game. I played it and I also cried.
So what Laura is saying, I just want to make a very short story. At the end of the life, when you play real lives, you have to write a letter to the character. And this is highly empathetic, evidence we get from every student. Now, this Korean professor asked every student to read out these letters in the classrooms. And these are from higher education. These are from postgraduate degrees. And when they started reading the letters, few of the students literally cried in the classroom, which I could not believe that how this can happen with only the text which is going to be read. But they go to that level. This lady is a teacher from Gwangju province in South Korea, and she's so fascinated. She cannot speak English. So every time we speak to each other, there is a translator sitting there. So she started running this teachers program in South Korea, and amazingly, she's involved. Anyway, so what she's doing is now she's talking to the government and she's creating the program for 20 other schools from that region. And they are going to send 2 teachers from each school, and they are going to send 2 students from each school. So she's going to run this workshop for the students. And then of course, she's going to talk to the district about how they can include Korea, RealLives into their school system. So,
exactly, because Parag, one of the key things that we know is that you can teach math, reading, and writing to anybody, but if they only learn that at age 13, they have not learned the most important thing is the skill of empathy.
yeah.
So Korea is really working on this.
I think this is the right time Matthew should come in. And Matthew, you can introduce yourself. I don't want to say something about you because I might not say the entire thing. Oh, you are in the school already.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. I can't see the folks, but I'd like to introduce myself. I used RealLives as a teacher. I was a global studies teacher for 14 years, and I'll call it the vintage version. Certainly didn't have the high-level graphics that we see now. And as far as what what you just relayed about students crying or being very empathetic when they read their stories or live their lives, those types of reactions were happening even when the graphics weren't as developed as they are now. And I use the term mesmerized. I had students that when we engaged in RealLives, they wouldn't leave the classroom. And at that point, you had to be on a PC. Remember those days, Parag? You had to have a PC computer. And so we only had one computer lab that had it. So we had to get those spaces locked in. I would have another class coming in and kids would be late to the next class because they didn't want to stop their life. They wanted to keep going. So when I think about how engaged the students were then, and now to see how Parag and his team have really enhanced this product. It really, when I think about the United States, and I think about our kind of alphabet soup that we have in schools, we have DEI initiatives. Every district has it. Diversity, equity, inclusion. RealLives is the perfect vehicle to drive a lot of those efforts. SEL, which Parag mentioned earlier, social and emotional learning. Again, this RealLives helps creates opportunities for students to have authentic engagement in developing these skills. And then CRC is culturally responsive classrooms. And one thing about any resource that we use in our classrooms, they're windows or they're mirrors. Windows are to cultures that are familiar to us, okay? I should say mirrors are mirroring back. These are cultures we're familiar with. But RealLives, and RealLives can do that, but it also offers so many windows. If you've lived in the United States your entire life, now you're looking out at 192 other nations. And I will tell you this, teaching global studies, I would have students that would, that were born in other nations. And when we engaged in this game and they could see common names, see surnames and first names from their country, it's like, oh my gosh, it might be the first time they've seen their names ever in any curriculum. And they just, again, they immersed in the program just as much as any of our students. So I would love to be involved in scaling up. I've looked at certainly your website for Women for Solutions. What perfect timing to have this conference. I don't know if you worked with Charles Blow on when he put out his article. His op-ed yesterday was "Women Will Save Us," and if you haven't read it yet, it is amazing. And I'm just reading the comments on it now, and it really is instructive. And Charles Blow is a fantastic writer. He makes some great points in that op-ed. I don't know, Parag, is there anything else you want me to focus on or to explain?
No, I think I will remember something and I'll bring you again.
Okay.
I'll just go forward.
Okay.
So thanks, Matthew, and thanks this. So this is another one of the topmost university in the world, ETH, where Einstein studied and taught both. So this professor, Ernst Hafen, who runs the microbiology and genetics department, heard me in a conference in Amsterdam when cancer patients run this conference called Inspired to Live. And they heard me in China and they said, Parag, you have to come for a keynote speaker at this conference who is completely driven by ex-cancer patients and doctors and health people. I went there and this professor was there. He invited me to Zurich. And then most fascinating things happened. So ETH appointed me as a change maker on the campus as a designation faculty. And then they gave me a budget and we created something like 4 workshops since last 4 years for the various departments, including mathematics and physics. I could not believe that a university can really think about bringing students from physics and mathematics to the empathy class and to the sustainability class, because ET said that, Parag, we have to really change as a university. Despite we have $3 billion budget, we are not really making sense about how the world is all about. So ETH has been a big experience. And these students, coming from the most brilliant backgrounds from Europe, they created these t-shirts on the last day. It was a surprise to me. This is one of the workshops. And they said that I am the change maker and I'm going to walk in the university with this t-shirt. On the front of the t-shirts, they said that these are the companies we would like to design ourselves as change makers. We don't want to join Roche and Novartis and all these big pharmas because they were from microbiology and genetics department. But we want to start something which can really help the communities. Now, this is the impact. And this guy, Ernst Hafen, submitted a report called Change in Perspective, Real Lives Learning from Being Born in a Different Place on the Earth, as a 4-page document to the university management, saying that all 10,000 students who come to the university every year, they should be inducted using real lives. So, sometimes there are barriers and sometimes there are all the bureaucratic barriers, and being a very small company, we have certain limitations about approaching these people all the time. And this guy retired actually in the March, but we will open the doors again. I think I'm very sure about it. So these kind of experiences happen. Professor David Gibson is a long-time mentor since 2008. He's a UNESCO chair and he's talking about data sciences in higher education. David, when he saw RealLives, the latest version, he said, Parag, we have to do very big thing with UNESCO. UNESCO should realize the potential of how we are actually connecting things of the life in the entire thing. Kim Flintoff is an amazing teacher from Perth, Australia, and he has created more than 10 workshops on RealLives. He goes from school to school, bringing them to the workshop, RealLives workshops, and he's creating workshops on global sustainable goals using RealLives. Ian Chambers is from Canberra, and he designed a conference called Young Person's Plan for the Planet. And he partnered with, the entire conference partnered with us in 2019 for a conference in Singapore. And every student from 6 countries who participated had to play real lives. And I'm going to show that video at the end, how these girls talked about. And of course, 2 Nobel laureates providing vision and critical inputs. We are very happy that Lee Hartwell from Seattle.
I think I'm very intrigued by the game because it offers students a chance to learn about other countries and other lives through real data. And
anyway, so can you hear these videos or no, Laura?
Yes, we heard it perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yes, it is audible.
Okay, great. And this is another guy who changed my life again, James Hickman. He's a Nobel laureate from Chicago University, economist. And he invited me to present RealLives at his university with his group. And I presented, like I always present everywhere. And he called me at the end of the presentation. He said, Parag, let's go for lunch. And I'm going to speak to you something very unique, because he actually is the guy who got his Nobel Prize on the assumption of how to invest in education and how it benefits nation. That's the equation he wrote. And he said, Parag, your game is amazing game, and you should really develop it for assessing the students. The current assessment which happens in Western countries, especially in US, is all question based. And I know as a young person how to fool these questions. If somebody asks me that, Do you get pain, and are you sad when you see something as sorrow or poor person on the street? I know why this question is being asked, and I'm going to answer that question in a particular way. So people are kind of fooling the questions, and that's happened in a big way. And instead, if you bring this assessment module into real life and ask university students to play, I think that is going to really help you. And so now the next vision we are trying to design is based on what James Hickman is actually saying. So let's see. This is the video of the Australian girls. This is a big video, but I'm going to show only first 2 or 3 minutes. Sorry for the video being horizontal for the first 1 minute, but later on it gets adjusted vertical. So let's watch. And I really hope that you can really hear this video very well.
Okay, start.
Hi, we're from Viewbank College and we've been trialing this amazing game, RealLives, for quite a while now. We'll introduce ourselves. I'm Sam.
I'm Tani.
I'm Emma. I'm Maddie.
Larissa.
Rose. And so, how's this game made you feel, guys? I feel like as this game, it's made, playing this game has made me feel like so much more of a global citizen. Like, I feel so much more connected in the world now because I can see what's going on with different lives and things like that.
And I find myself when I play a life in RealLives, right, I feel really attached to that life. Whenever things happen, I have a legitimate emotional response to it. Like anything from my mouse being stolen to my mum being unemployed to my own death in the game, it's like actually hurts.
It just really puts our position and our privilege into perspective, and it really triggers on your empathy, so it's a wonderful game in that aspect.
It also shows that we shouldn't take everything that we have for granted because people in developing countries don't have everything that we have because we're a developed country, so they might not have as good education as us, and we can experience that in the game and experience what it's like living with poverty and
it's like just seeing the slide where you see what your family has access to. It's like, oh, sometimes you don't have access to clean water or good sanitation, or you don't have access to things like technology, and it's so hard to imagine that, but
and I think it's a message that really needs to be spread, and I think a way to do that is not just by giving out RealLives licenses, but it's about using it in the classroom, because empathy, the things like empathy that are so prevalent in the game, they aren't really taught in the classroom at the moment, and I think they really need to be implemented.
It could be implemented in so many different humanities classes.
Okay, I stopped because it's a big video. I can share that link later on. And now as we go in the future, we are also trying to design the global real life teacher program. We are actually want to give the license to every teacher in the world, a free license, where they can play real lives and start building themselves as a teacher who can teach empathy, sustainability, and change making. So that's a very visionary program we are trying to design. Of course, some Ashoka offices are going to be part of that. We have our vision very well set till 2028. I don't want to read this entire document, but it is there. At the end of this entire presentation, I want to say something which is really hurting me in a big way. So there is this quote from Romanian gamer who plays real lives, and he keeps writing to us all the time. And he says, what I like about real lives is how the game throws you into a country and makes you face all these issues specific to that country, like either health problems or tensions from the government, poverty, and so on. And it's like, deal with it. So you start to think, this game is hard. I am poor, sick, can't get out of this place to make a better life for myself. And then you start to realize that there are people in this world in the exact same situation with absolutely no options, but to play the cards that they are being dealt and with no way out. That's what I love about this game. And I hope you will be able to grow on this kind of immersion that makes me say, not this again. When my character gets sick or something bad happens, and say, wow, I'm so happy I have managed to do this. So, these kind of reactions we get from gamer community, which is really wrongly labeled sometimes that they want to play only games which are entertaining. So that's not true. Real lives is about nobler instincts. Real lives is about goodness and greater goodness. Real lives is about empathy, social emotional skills, global citizenship, and all sorts of skills you can read about: grit, resilience, survival, thriving, you name it, and it's there. It's about understanding the world. It's about the knowing the world, and it's about the feeling the real world. It's about reforming the education, taking it beyond four walls. It's about what the equality is all about, what is disparity, and then many words I can put on. And it's about inspiring young people against fleecing money out of their pocket, which happens in gaming. So we have nobler instincts and everything. And I like this slide, So when people started talking about data is new oil, I always say that data is not new oil. Data is empathy. So on the left, I have put some names like Facebook and Google, stealing and selling, control your devices. So I want to control everything, and I want to know what you are and what you are going to buy next. Looking and hearing your private life, that's what is happening. And promote intentional suicide and depression episodes with people. On the other side, what we are aiming at is that there are poor and disadvantaged in this world. People are dying. People want to be young change makers. We want to promote greater goodness, solving the most important and pressing challenges of the world. And big fight which is happening is bad and insulting games, like I said in the beginning, games that hurt women dignity, gaming, sucking out money from young, addiction, which is a big problem. There are 4 institutes in South Korea right now where game addicted people are admitted, like drug addicts. Brightest minds designing games that promote suicide. And where is the blood? That was a question the investors asked if they want to fund a game like a simulation game. And if you don't have blood in the game, you don't get money. So where you don't sell the data, and these are the questions people ask me, how you are going to monetize the data? Why are you shy for stealing the data from the schools and from the young people? Everybody is doing, and why you are not doing it? Best was, if player gets empathetic, why not you sell virtual things like burger or blankets, and then you will make a lot of money. So is that the aim of life? Is that what we are actually aiming at? That you sell virtual things which are not going even to the poor and needy, but you just earn money and be happy with that money. I'm just putting this slide. There is no agenda for that. But in this chaotic world, we are trying to raise about 500K USD because we want to work on the greater vision. And if you see all these things, I don't know who is the right person we are going to meet in this world. But everyone has children. Even the investors have their own kids. And I don't know, somewhere, sometime you might want someone. This is the quote from Steve Jobs, which I always like, and that inspires me all the time. That do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world? That was the question he asked for John Scully, who later joined Apple as a marketing. But this question is a fundamental question of life, and I think that's what drives me. RealLives promotes change making, which is finding a hero in each of us, and that happens in many schools and many colleges and many institutes. If Masai and these people in Kenya and other parts of Africa can, instead of killing lions, they try to save lions and they become change makers, why we should not be change makers? So I end my presentation here, Laura. I can show you very briefly the game if there is a time.
Yes, please. That would be fantastic. Just a snippet, because when you start playing the game and you choose which baby you want to be, the baby cries, and then you start deciding and making choices for this human being, and you become so attached to this baby, and that you make them grow. You try to make the best decisions. Yeah. But what is really fascinating is that it really enhances the understanding, the aha moment, that every time you do something, you think something, you're making choices in your life. And that's one of the biggest contribution of this game, that we are always deciding how we're going to live in the future. It's not the circumstances as much. So this is one of the biggest learnings I had when I played this game. Please show it to us.
Yeah. So I have to stop sharing.
Yeah, and so I have found that many people who play this game have really learned the skill that sometimes is so ephemeral and so hard to actually see changes in people. Ready?
Yes. So as I said, we are launching the Korean version by next week. So this is the Korean version and this is the English. So first time RealLives is becoming bilingual, and eventually by next year we will be having French, German, and maybe Chinese or Japanese. So we want to grow in our business, going to all these schools across the globe. So right now I choose English. I click this button, and then it shows me 5 ways of you can be born in RealLives. So initially, last product had only 3 ways to get born. The first is a random, like all of us don't decide where to be born, what gender, which country, what family, nothing. So the server decides where you are going to be born. The second is design a character. So you can design that I want to be born as a girl in Afghanistan or in Rwanda or anywhere on the earth from 192 countries. So that's the second. The third is choosing a sustainable development goal. And then it picks up the data, live data from the United Nations server. And you can decide to be born in one of the sustainable development goals. The fourth one is very interesting, and where this is called country groups. So there are country groups by United Nations like P5, G4, G20. We keep hearing all these groups. But my team has created more than 100 groups right now. So a few of the groups are like the countries with no rivers. So you can be born in one of these countries, or countries where the abortion is illegal, or countries where the salaries for men and women are unequal. So then the young people, we are trying to throw him into a situation where he starts seeing or she starts seeing the disparity of the world. And the last is the assignment, which is a big part the teachers are going to use. So we have more than 300 assignments. Like for example, these assignments are coming from economics or geography or social science or human rights. So you will be born in a country where political rights are really dismal, or you are going to be born in a country with highest corruption or lowest corruption and something like that. So now it has become a big learning platform driven by content. You know, that's the beauty of RealLives. So I'm just going to show you the first one where you can be born random. So as Laura said that you are going to be born. Oh, unfortunately, you are in Canada. Okay, so this is the baby cry. And one of the story from Canadian school is that this baby cry was used by a teacher to design a workshop why people cry. So he said actually later on in an email that Parag, we never discussed or even imagination that we could our children could discuss about why people cry in this world. And this is completely out of syllable. And that came because they started using RealLives, and this was the sound they heard. So this is your family. So everything is designed and driven by the real statistical data. The Canada has the smallest families. So you will see further father, mother, and you. Then because I am playing from India, so it takes me to from New Delhi to Canada. Then some small information about Canada, what the country is. And so everybody, like for example, in Korea, they said that they never heard the countries like Gambia or Mauritius and these small countries. If I click this no more, then it gives you huge information about from Wikipedia and all other partners. So for example, if I click HDG, it brings the HDG current UN data here on the website. And I can see how Canada is performing on sustainable development goals. Then I go further and it shows me where I'm born, which exact place in Canada. So I can just go on this Google map. I can make this plan make better. And if there is any data here, my students can see how this place looks like. So then you can see the entire world sitting at one place. And then I'm born here. So if I'm playing from Africa or some poor country of the world, I think then I'm going to get fascinated. So there is, of course, there is a lot of Google data, so we use that. Then from here, it starts showing you the income equality or wealth equality. And then this is a very famous Lorenz curve, which is Gini index, essentially. And the entire sustainable goals development data works kind of behind the economic data, which is the Gini. And on the right, actually, we make this graph is simplified by creating this statement. So in Canada, I was surprised that bottom 50% population, poor population, not poor exactly, bottom 50%, about 18 million people owns only 6% of national wealth, and top 1% of population, which is about only 0.38 million, owns 22% of the global Canadian wealth. So that's the disparity people have in Canada. Then it compares Canada and India, just for the sake of. You can also put these screens off if the young people are going to play from the school. So age 10, 8 or 12 or 13. Now here there is some data visualization. What is the difference between India and Canada?
And here you mentioned the reason why it's choosing India is because you started playing.
Yes. So if the kids are playing from US, then of course one country will be US and then the country they are born in the real lives. And then all the data comes here as a visualization. And the last is the country. So for example, SDG rank, and happiness rank or human development index, corruption index. So all these things come. So I'm building a context around the life, which is that person is going to live in this country. And here now you see the country memberships both countries have. So India looks more promising in terms of creating international partnerships than Canada. And if I click, for example, as a young person, I don't know what G20 means. If I click this, Wikipedia page opens and I can read about what G20 is all about. Or any group, for example, coal reserves high. Now what this means, and because the next politics of the world is going to be played on where the coal is, not the fossil fuel. So all these data comes here very handy and the teachers can create. So this is the resemblance index which is generated. So Korea and India, Canada and India actually are about 24% resembling when it comes to international partnerships. Then it creates the sustainable development goal. So I can choose a goal number 2 and it brings the data from Canada and India. And I can see myself actually the sub goals, which are actually, so there is one sub goal, which is obesity, which is zero hunger. So Canada has big problem about obesity, looks like. And, or if I choose good health, then obviously Canada is going to be better. But gap in life expectancy at birth among regions is one of the key problems. And when this was being played in ETH in Switzerland, the students saw data from Switzerland and they wrote a letter to their prime minister saying that why they see some of the red dots here on the sustainable development goals data with Switzerland. This is the first time model, Laura, we are building. This is an economic model. And now the statistics in real life is so perfect that we are sure that even at Harvard and MIT and London School of Economics, this game will be played, because we had a lot of demos across the Statistical and Economics Institute. And people are saying that this was never attempted, that how the bottom 10% are going to live in this world, driven by the statistical and economics data. So you are born in, say, Canada, and bottom 10% in Canada, the poor, earn still $42,000. And in India, the bottom 10% only earn about $3,000 average. So that's the disparity you start seeing. On the left side, you see your family, which is how much income your family has, and what is the average income of Canada, what is India, and what is the world. And then it gives you the amenities, which are perfect because every Canadian will have everything like safe water, public sanitation, and refrigerator, and computer, and something like that. And Laura, this is the first time we have created. So even if you play billion times real life and you born in realize billion times, no story of your family is going to be safe. And that's our challenge now, because it is driven by so random data and the statistical algorithms are so flexible that every story of this sort is going to be different. So your name is Isobel and you are born in country called Canada as a girl, and all the data about family and what their income is and whether father and mother are healthy, not healthy, what disease they have. So everything is generated from the data, and then you start playing the life. So Laura, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to play the entire life because it will take a long time. What we can do is I can give the licenses once it is launched to all the people who participated, and they can check themselves and they can comment us back. So that's, but I'm going to show you something else. So I'll just go back here. And this is fascinating for UNESCO. So I select goal number 2. So I'm trying to born using a sustainable development goal. So I click zero hunger. I see the sub goals here. So prevalence of undernourishment is goal 2.1. So many people even don't know that there are sub goals in many of the schools and universities. So I select this goal. Then it goes to the United Nations server right now, connects to that. And then it pulls the data right now about the countries which has major challenges on goal number 2, countries where the significant challenge still exists. This is better version, challenges remain, and where the goals are achieved. So there is no one dying possibly with hunger. Of course, there are homeless people and everything, but statistically very near. So I'm curious as a student that I want to be born in one of the countries which has major challenges. So I select Congo Republic. Then it takes me to the Congo on Google Map, and it shows me the cities in Congo where I can be born. So I select a city called Kinkala. So I know where that city is. So my geography knowledge starts, building up. Then I choose the religion. This is the real data again coming from Wikipedia. And we are in a serious discussion right now with Wikipedia how we can collaborate for the data of the world. So I select Catholic. Then here I can design my character. And I may have a bias coming from a country which is good, that I am born in a not so good country. So maybe I am less intelligent, or maybe I have good intelligence, whatever is that. So as a student, I decide my character. I also decide whether my character is going to be a girl in a rural area. And our data is so perfect, Laura, across the globe now, that if you are born in a country in a rural setting, probably you will encounter more challenges here. And was what Matthew was telling, that we have a big data of names across the globe. So you can choose the character name, and then you are born in the game. So when you are born in the game, you will see. So I'm born in Congo Republic, Amy Baker. I have this family which is huge. You see the difference now from Canada and Congo. And that's what my family is. And I'm sure that this family is going to encounter a lot of issues. So Congo is here on the west. Some information about Congo. Then the Google map. Then the statistics about how much wealth people have in Congo, rich and the poor. Of course, Congo has mines which are mainly run by Chinese. So a lot of exploitation happens. Then again, all these indexes. I'm going a little bit faster because I want to show you something. I can come back here again and see all the sub goals here. So I'm born possibly. Now this is very interesting. So odds of being born as absolutely poor in Congo, less than $2, that's United Nations definition, are 30%. So 30% people in Congo can be born as extremely poor people, and you are one of them. So you are born in really poor family and big family. So you possibly don't have anything. See, so this is the data from the stillbirths of the world. And because you are born and you just died while getting born, you just died. So this randomness works, and this is not a random. We don't make any hypothetical situations here. It was a girl and she died. And I see here that goal number 2 was chosen by me, which is the malnutrition. So my knowledge about life and how that goal performs that country becomes more and more valuable. And this is what this David Gibson is saying, that Parag, we should really present this at UNESCO and really impress them that how the sustainable development goals in real life pedagogy are connected with the life you live. And that's how more and more people are going to learn about it. And then at the end of the life, the obituary generated from the software. And we also ask students to write the obituary, whatever they want to write. So when they are living the life, they can also write the obituary and save it and send it to their teachers and to their friends. So, wow. So this is what the sustainable development goal. And last is the country groups. So there are so many country groups here. So most hungry countries, infant mortality high, Arab leagues, landmine producers and landmine victims. So these are the countries where landmines are created, and these are the countries who suffer from landmines. So let me go to this one category which is attractive to gender pay gap high. Now I select this country group. It has a page from world data from Oxford, and then it shows me something interesting. So it shows me the countries here: Austria, Chile, Estonia, Germany, Iceland, Latvia, Peru, Russia, Slovakia, South Korea, Switzerland, and Czech Republic. And this is the country comparison on the right. So what is the HDG performance of these countries? What is the Gini index? What is the happiness index? What is the purchasing power parity? What is the human development index? And then I can choose one of the countries here, South Korea. And then I can select a city. So it goes with the same flow. So I want to born in Daegu, which is near the sea. And I want to be born in Korean, Confucian, which is the Buddhist. I can give a character name. So all the Korean names come here. I want to be born as female because I want to experience how the salaries are different possibly and how they affect my life. And then I'm born. So it was the same way again. So we have this different way of connecting to the life. So you can come by 6-7 ways of real lives. And my team currently is working on very innovatively that we are going to really bring a lot of ways of how you can be born in real lives, offering it as a very big tool for the schools and universities. Yeah, I think I stop here, Laura.
Well, this is fantastic. I mean, as you know, I'm passionate about this because it's so the skill of empathy is a key skill for humans, and moving forward, as I said, reading, writing, and knowing math are not what will save our world and make us better human beings. So on this note, I would love you to share, and you did share some, but how when teachers take this game, very complex but beautiful, how do they innovate? And I think you have some incredible innovations happening continuously. Can you share some and the examples and the impact it has?
Yeah, so one definitely is about this Canadian school who tried creating very interesting workshops like crying, why people cry in this world. And they came out with, amazing, about 80 ways people cry. And even I was thinking for a moment that, is that really true that people cry for 80 different reasons? And this teacher told me, no, Parag, it's not about only painful and in a sorrow and sadness you cry. There are people who cry for different reasons. And that he said that it was a kind of a game changer experience for their school. That was one. Secondly, suddenly I got an email from a school in US. I forgot actually where it is from, but teacher was very scared because it was a young group of students playing real lives. And there is something called settings. So you can off certain data from real lives playing. And he forgot to off the data from the rape data. And this girl came to the teacher, very young girl, saying that my character is raped and I don't know what to do. And she was asking very, innocently. And the teacher got scared and she sent an email to me saying that, Parag, will it be a legal, implications and anything, because that's how US is. So I said, actually, don't worry, because real world is like that. What you can do possibly is invite the teachers at the school, and why not you talk to them? When the parents. And when parents came, the mother was really worried how to really bring out this topic with her daughter. And she was very happy actually that this topic is discussed. Later on, the teacher told me that this was actually part of their kind of extra syllabus and outside the school kind of activity where they have to really learn about all these things which happen in the society and how to empower girls and even boys for these kind of situations. So a lot of these things come, which we never say or we never tell in our entire communication with the teachers, because it's virtual and we are not in direct contact with teachers. But Matthews, if you are still there, do you want to say something? Because maybe you have some more stories.
Hello, Parag. Yes, I'd like to share, going back to global studies, how this has been used in our school district. We we studied geography by region. So whenever we started a region, let's just say sub-Saharan Africa, we would ask our students in a class period to live 2 lives. One is a male and one is a female in one of the countries in sub-Saharan Africa. And what I also did is I assigned the students a country because I didn't want them all living in, say, South Africa. I wanted them to be able to share a broad set of experiences from the different nations. And several things unfolded and led to some very in-depth conversations. First of all, students didn't know where these countries were. Right? They never heard of Lesotho, they never heard of Madagascar. So you're just getting that very beginning of geographic knowledge. But what I love about RealLives is it starts to get to those higher order thinking skills, and students are asking how questions or a lot of why questions. Why do people get goiters? That is something they had never even heard of before. Why are people getting sick from drinking water? Like it just doesn't even compute compared to their lives in the United States. And what I would have students do is I gave them a fill-in sheet to just compare and contrast their life as a male and as a female. So then the why questions get at, well, as a female, why did I have to leave education when I was 10 years old? Or as a female, why wasn't I allowed to go to school at all? They also saw disparities. One of the things about RealLives is you are posed with choices. Do you want to pursue a job, a certain type of employment? Some types of employments are just are not available for females or for people that didn't have enough education. So we really got a great start and a foundation of knowing where the country is, knowing a bit more about its culture, and then really a great launching point for deep study of that region.
Fantastic. I mean,
Parag,
this is yeah.
And that's the stories that's the thing we want to tap now is the teachers project. And one of the ideas we have is that if the teachers get a license and they play RealLives, we are going to give a kind of a shareable platform where they can bring their insights. And we are going to also ask them that, can you share with the public, the teacher community, that how, if you use a game like RealLives, how best you can use it in the classroom as a geography, as an economics, as a social science teacher. Laura, one of the things I realized that we all talk about empathy, we talk about sustainability, we talk about sustainable development goals, we talk about disparity, and we talk all sorts of problems in this world. But if you go to the school, do schools and do education have this kind of a content readily available, which they can use directly with the students? And students come from different backgrounds, different age and different genders and something like that. How we are going to feed the same content to different set of students coming from different age and all this. This is the great idea that the being a game, it's like chess. So even 3-5-year-old person, child can play chess, or 7-year-old, and even the masters of the chess can play the game in a different way. So games are always like that. So even 8-year, 9-year, 10-year child is going to play RealLives. And if there is a content which is mapped to what he or she can learn from that, I think that's going to be a big contribution we are going to do. And nobody is doing that. All the content is centralized design, So there are big teams sitting there in companies like in India or elsewhere, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 people sitting and designing the content. And the teachers are going to be only using it as a teaspoon, a kind of a feed. So we are saying that the teachers community is very motivated, very passionate. They know actually every child, what he and she learns. If they design the content, so it's like a crowdsourcing we are trying to create as a project. And we want to work with foundations who can actually help us, because there is a server cost and there are some real costs which are involved. And of course, there is some development which is going to happen. So I think this is going to be a very ambitious project. I am trying for a pilot project in Korea right now because the Korean version is ready. And Korean teachers, as you know, are well paid. And many of them, they come from technology. They have played games in their lives. So we had a kind of a workshop with Korean teachers. And it is going to be fascinating. The only disadvantage is that the Korean content is going to be in Korean. But eventually we will have a team which can translate this Korean content for the world across. And of course, with Matthews, we are also discussing about the US teacher program. So all these ambitions, and we are going to create a lot of innovation coming from teachers, not from us. We are just going to provide a platform. So crowdsourcing is the key.
That's fantastic. And I'm so honored to know you for so many years, Parag, because I've seen you through the difficulty, even though it seems like, oh, he's so successful. No way. This program that is so simple, so effective, and so profoundly a changing of mindsets has been so hard to communicate, to instill in schools, in colleges, and it's been an upward hill. And what I admire is your courage, your determination, and your selflessness, because many people could use the data as others would think so, but you don't. And your honesty and your true change maker spirit makes it that you have a absolute pure soul to do this. And I'm so glad you are in charge of it, because not so many people would be so pure and so purposeful oriented to make this happen and change. And on that note, we'll have to close, but if you want to say some closing words, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, so closing is definitely we will fight. We will fight with all our goodness. We have said to investors who came with a lot of money and they wanted us to change the vision. We said no, because I don't want to sell myself at this age of life, because I think we are really making a kind of a disruption in the world, which nobody has tried before. So that's we have to protect that pureness and that honest efforts for sure. Second is there is another guy from India called Vivek, who has been always mentoring me and kind of a lighthouse, for my thoughts. And so he's there, and I keep learning from, and Laura, even you. So I have seen you and Vivek and so many people. So you have constant inspiration, and you feel that these are the people who are going to make you survive, and you can still fight and go on. So of course that is going to happen. And last is I never said in my life so far, but because I got sick with COVID 2 years ago and I was really bad and I was almost dying. So that time I had this dream that we have to create this version which is perfect, and we really want to deliver something. Fortunately, my leadership has helped so far. And now I have a team which is small actually. We are just 5 people, you won't believe. And they continuously work full-time, multitasking. There are 7 volunteers working with me right now who don't want to take any salaries from me. So that's how this magic happens. But apart from that, I want to really thank my wife. She's not here right now because, because it's a women's platform. I want to really thank her because, when you fight, you go from all ups and downs in your life. And if your partner believes in the vision, whether it really happens or not, so it's an illusion which you are always carry in your life. But if they are together, and even your friends, I think that makes your life wonderful. So thanks for being with me.
I so admire you. Not only Parag has an amazing wife, but also amazing children that support him. And so you've created a beautiful world for you, and you're trying to help others have beautiful lives too with this program. Seems so simple, so easy, and so effective and scalable. But it has to be scalable with authentic love and focus on ethics and what matters. And I think, Parag, you are the emissary to do this, and I hope you the best. And with that, Women for Solutions, what we do is we bring forward these incredibly simple and effective solutions to really bring forward the caring economy, that without it, we will, who knows where we'll go, but we believe in people like Parag and all the others. And next week, we will have Lily Bryan, who will talk about also another incredible innovator that is a Montessori and the system of Montessori that also brings forward the empathy program. And on that, basically, Women for Her Solution has something we call the empowering pose. That is to finish up. We put our shoulders back, our chin up, we look with joy and determination, and we smile, because a smile brings a lot of beautiful things. And thank you, Parag. Real lives is what happens, real lives. And we say real lives because this is what makes it change the world. And by putting our arms up, we change our world. So real lives. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We will continue next week on July the 6th with Lydian Bryant, that's also on the line. Thank you very much, everybody.
And thanks to Matthews for his sudden
thank you, Matthew, for your comments and everything. So thank you, and we will see you every week with some innovative programs here.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Parag, deeply. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.